President Donald Trump's administration fired a top U.S. Navy officer at NATO headquarters in Brussels, drawing ire from Democrat lawmakers. U.S. officials said on April 7th, Vice Admiral Shoshana Chatfield, who holds a senior position in the Transatlantic Military Alliance, was relieved of duty without explanation from the government. U.S. officials speaking to Reuters about the firing on condition of anonymity said they believe the decision was made last week by U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, but it was unclear whether he received any direction from Trump, according to the officials. Chatfield got a call from Admiral Christopher Grady, the acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and was told the administration wanted to go in a different direction with the job. Trump and Hegseth have sought to purge the military of old diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, claiming it distracts from the Pentagon's war-fighting mission. They have been vocal in their insistence that so-called woke policies are dead. Chatfield is at least the 10th high-level defense official pushed out by Trump since he took office in January. Hegseth announced in February 2025 that he was firing the chief of naval operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, and Trump fired Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Linda Fagan just a day after he was sworn in. Chatfield was on a list of senior military officers targeted as woke by the conservative American Accountability Foundation, which sent a letter to Hegseth saying that purging the woke from the military is imperative. Chatfield also has been a target for conservatives, with critics labeling her as woke for comments she made in 2019 when taking on the role as president of the Naval War College. She had said, "I want to see members of this team offer each other respect for differences, for diversity, for the dialogue from which ideas and collaboration emerge." Chatfield firing was quickly criticized by Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chair Mark Warner, who posted to social media saying that he was deeply disturbed by the act, Trump's relentless attacks on our alliances, and his careless dismissal of decorated military officials make us less safe and weaken our position across the world. Senate Armed Services Committee Ranking Member Jack Reed said Trump's dismissal of Chatfield is unjustified and disgraceful. Chatfield, a 38-year career as a Navy pilot, foreign policy expert, and preeminent military educator, including as president of the Naval War College, will leave a lasting legacy on the Navy and throughout the military. Admiral Chatfield's record of selfless service is unblemished by President Trump's behavior. Reed also called on his Republican colleagues to demand an explanation for the firing, calling it deeply troubling considering Trump has fired 10 senior defense officials without explanation in the past 3 months. Shoshana Chatfield, a decorated U.S. Navy pilot and Bronze Star recipient, was the only woman serving on NATO's highest military committee. A Garden Grove, California native, Chatfield has held key commands in Afghanistan, the Pacific, and Europe, and was the first woman to lead the Naval War College. From 2019 to 2023, a 1987 Boston University graduate, she earned advanced degrees from Harvard and the University of San Diego and taught at the U.S. Air Force Academy. She commanded helicopter squadrons, led a reconstruction team in Farah Province, and held senior roles at the Pentagon and with NATO. Despite recent political scrutiny over her support for equality and diversity initiatives, Chatfield's record reflects decades of bipartisan joint force leadership. Her awards include the Distinguished Service Medal, Defense, Superior Service Medal, and multiple commendations across services. Chatfield's role on NATO's top military panel underscores a career spent shaping U.S. and allied strategy at the highest levels. Black veterans warned that the Trump administration's effort to purge the Defense Department of its diversity, equity, and inclusion content is sending a negative message that could impact recruitment efforts. There's executive orders that actually do things, and then there's executive orders that are made to send a message. And that message was very clear. Their intent is to try and resegregate as much of the society as possible that they think they can get away with that if they can't do it through legal means. They're going to try and do it by making black people feel that we are unwelcome or unsafe in these spaces. Bibi added that the idea of DTI is not new to the military, but it wasn't always known as DCI. Rather, it was equal opportunity. Learning about other service members' history and culture was also a natural occurrence. The president does not put forward an executive order like that, and then also has his Secretary of Defense strip all of this black history from these websites without this being an aligned effort. These are not isolated things that are occurring in a vacuum. Meanwhile, two key members of federal boards fired by President Trump have been unfired by the courts for a second time, that a federal appeals court has reimposed an order blocking Trump from firing the two federal officials who serve in agencies that oversee employee grievances and labor disputes. In a highly unusual order, April 7th, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals voted 7-4 to set aside the ruling of one of its three-judge panels, which allowed the firings to proceed, despite laws saying the officials can be dismissed only in cases of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Writing for the dissenting judges, Judge Naomi Roe didn't dwell on the majority's argument that the Supreme Court precedents upholding limits on the president's firing powers remain valid law. Instead, the Trump appointee emphasized that the courts lack the authority to order a presidential appointee return to their post. There is simply no precedent for such expansive judicial directives against officers of the executive branch wielding essential executive powers.